Good evening, America. I couldn't sleep tonight again. Okay. You need to keep calling those 8 Democratic senators that are making this deal, because the deal quite ain't sealed yet, from what I understand. But here's the deal. Again, I'm watching a video that's 3 days old, so they could already have done the deal if I remember. I don't remember correctly. Okay, but let me give you some bit of advice. Okay. Okay, the Republicans have, they will not have a vote on the ACA. Okay, a clean vote on the ACA. Because the House is not going to do it. Period. They said they're not going to have the vote. Period. They're already reneging. Okay, but in that, what they had in that deal, when that clean CR came down, remember I told you about the abortion deal? We found out the trickery that they did. What they did with that, remember I told you about the abortion, the more regulation? Well, basically what they're doing to control the Democratic states, that federal law that I told you that they have more regulation, takes precedent over what the states' rights were. So the states' rights don't mean shit anymore. That means they're going to control California. Yeah. That's literally what the fuck they're going to do. California, any other state who wants to give abortions, who don't want to do it like Texas does it, and some of these other fucking sorry-ass southern states. Okay? They're going to kill women. That's what it boils down to. And there's not going to be no vote. Okay? That they tacked on a bunch of shit to it. Remember, the ACA, they took away from the ACA. There's not going to be a vote on that. Okay, remember I told you about those 8 Republicans that said that their lines were tapped? Well, that's bullshit. It's any information you could have got from any one of their phone bills. Okay? Now, here's the kicker part. Here's the best act. Because remember, about a month ago, that's when they did all that acting and said, oh, our lines and stuff. Well, it was because they wanted this in the bill. Do you understand that they could get a minimum of $500,000 per line, per phone number, per incident? Okay? These guys are literally trying to get rich off of being traitors. There's no other word you can say for it. Josh Hawley is one of them. These people are literally trying to get rich off of being traitors. Okay? And I saw a good meme photo today that said that he said his father told me that we only like winners in America. He said, so I went over and took down his Confederate flag. That's what we need to do with these people. When we get back in charge, this shit with these Confederates, these right-wing, these red hats, these motherfuckers got to go. They're traitors when we get back in control. Okay, another thing which is real, real bad, that's coming. Next year is going to be a fucking, probably one of the worst years in the history of this country financially. There's going to be a crash in the market, so start saving your nickels and pennies and putting them under your mattress. Because this country, everything that Trump is proposing, it's going to just send inflation to crazy to hell. Okay, here's something I found out too in this deal, and I found out earlier, but I couldn't remember it a while back. But okay, remember when we got all that money and we were sitting in, and they sent us that money during COVID, and a lot of people, and records show this, what I'm telling you, so I'm not lying to you. You can go prove, it proves what I'm saying to you. Okay, there's numbers out there to prove exactly what I'm telling you right now. Okay, people put the money away. Why? Because they were stuck at home. They didn't need to spend it. Well, during that time, okay, got to understand, this is where we got to get corporations under control. They raised prices to get that money. Yeah, they were literally raising prices during that time, because every time we get money ahead, they raise prices somewhere alongside in the system. Anytime the government gives us any money, anytime we get ahead, they take it. With the way this financial system is up, we have corporations. We don't have the system running itself. We have the foxes in the henhouse running the financial system. Yeah, we have the foxes running the financial system right now because we've deregulated so fucking bad that we have a runaway economy. Yeah, we have to have a free market, but you got to have regulation in the free market. I mean, let's just say, okay, we're going to play a game of football, but there's no rules. Do you understand how they can get? You can have people bring guns to a football game. Or if you make a rule, well, if you make so much amount of money, you get to have a 22, but you guys down here that don't make enough money, you don't get no gun. That's the type of football they're playing, people, with the economic, because they made the rules, and the rules are in their advantage. Okay? That's what big business and these corporations have done. Another thing that's doing is Blackwater. I think you've heard me talk about it before. Blackwater is not necessarily in trouble, but they're literally, they have a couple of corporations that they run that runs throughout this country. They're have to do with home repair and some other shit. They're going belly up. Well, they looked at the page where it says what the assets and the expenses are. You know, your tally sheet. Well, they have less than $100,000 in assets, but they have almost, what did they say? Almost $1 trillion in debt. How does that happen? Well, I can tell you how that happens. They're backstopped by other companies because they're such a big conglomerate corporation, and they backstop it. But they can pull that money at any time, and they can literally collapse that when it no longer makes money for them. Or if it's beneficial that they need to let it collapse, that it's going to open up something else in the market. Because remember I told you about the other night, all these houses and these businesses that are built a certain way, okay, if you build them in each region and they're under a certain spec, and you put these plain Jane square box buildings up, again, like I told you, instead of years to develop another business, they can pop it in and just drop it in because they already know what the building is. That's literally what they're doing. They're buying up all the businesses and they're simplifying it, boxing it. Okay, you know how like Walmart is, they sell you a whole bunch of the same shit and crap? That's what they're going to do to the whole buildings and everything and the businesses. Okay, you won't have the fancy lettering. It'll just be plain block, cheap fucking lettering for the building. Poof, and the same size sign in all the areas in this region that they own. Boom, they can just go right in and start whatever fucking business. If they want to start a Chinese restaurant, if they want to start a home remodeling deal. Do you understand? They have their restaurant buildings, they have their business buildings, they have their shops, they have their home improvement buildings. Okay? They just plug and play. That's what it is. These people are literally, they are nothing but cancers on society. That's what they are, people. We're in trouble. Okay? They're not, again, like I told you, to get back to our deal, they're not going to play fair. They lie. They cheat. There's not going to be no vote for the ACA. That's done. That's gone. Okay? These 8 Democrats sold us out, and Chuck Schumer sold us out for a promise. And now and the promise was made by people that every word they utter out of their mouth is a lie. That's the only way I can boil it down to you. That's like going to it. You have a child, and I've dealt with stepchildren that I raised and took care of, and was a babysitter. I dealt with children that the moment they opened their mouth and they told you something, it was a lie, and you knew it because you could watch them. Well, that's the Republican Party. We can watch them. And these 8 Democrats sold us out for nothing. Now they have the federal government in control of all the abortion in the whole country now. Then the other hemp deal, which was a deal, remember, like I told you, It was for the liquor industry, because the liquor industry is going belly up. Okay? In Kentucky, the liquor industry is going belly up. Okay? Now, you got to remember, the liquor business is a funny business anyway, because they make something, but it takes years for that's whenever they make a change for, let's say they want to make different varieties of whiskey that taste different. Well, that takes years in advance to do that, because you got to take it and it's got to be aged. Okay, because again, it ain't a whiskey unless it's aged. Okay, or not, or a bourbon, whatever it is, how them rules and they do that. I don't understand it all. I've read it, but I can't remember it all. But that's how it is. I mean, it's they have to do stuff in advance. They're like almost like farmers, but with alcohol. Okay, they've already set into motion what's coming for the future. So if you know what they've made, you know what they're coming out with. But what they've done, they've banded all together, and they're manipulating the market. The majority of the distillers, the big distillers in Kentucky and Tennessee, they all get together, and then because they've learned if they stick together, that's what I try to tell you, Democrats out there and the people. If you stick together, we're stronger together than we are separate, because any one of the government regulations could run over one of the companies. Okay, any one of a rush on the economy can wipe out a little companies, which it's already doing because some of them are over leveraged. Okay, just like America. Okay, these 50-year mortgages and everything else that he's proposing, this $2,000, we're broke, people. I've seen the damn checking account. Okay, that tariffs, why you're so fucking scared to get that, is that the Supreme Court makes them have to pay that back, those tariffs, because from the mismanagement of what they're doing and the mismanagement that we've had that corporations have done over the years because of deregulation that these fucking people have done. Because you got to remember something. How many times have we bailed these people out? The government has bailed the financial system, the housing market out. Well, that cost us, people. And then they allow them to go back in, and they do the same damn deal every time the Republicans get back in the thing. They did away with the consumer agency. That's gone. My interest rates now on my credit card is 25%. They can do it arbitrarily. It'd be just the same way if I put a muffler on a car, halfway through doing that muffler, and I get at the end, instead of charging them the $150 that I put the muffler on for and the system on, at the end, by the time I get done to the end and within that hour that I'm working on that car, the price jumps. You wouldn't stand for that. But that's what the banks are doing to us. Okay? They write the regulations. That's what the fine print is all about, people. The fine print is nothing but bullshit, for lack of a better term. It's bullshit. Everything in that fine print protects them and not you. Now we have no consumer protection agency to protect us. So we're literally now in the wild frontier of these idiots playing with the financial market, and we're the guinea pigs so they can see how much money they can make. I already told you that the other night. They're literally trying to take over the United States. The corporations are, because they think they're smarter than us. Okay? We are just the workers that they could give shit less about. We're, if you put it in terms of a fireplace or a wood stove, we're just the fuel to fire that. It doesn't matter that we get burned up. But that's what we are, them. We are disposable to these people. BlackRock has already proved that. AI has already proved that, how they're manipulating the housing market right now. That's why you have to have it well regulated. They should not be able to, like they did through COVID, raise those prices on us like they did during COVID. Yeah. Because the way that the market is set up, the way it is, and the way that they run their companies is not a proper way to run a company. It truly isn't. I couldn't run the company that they run the way they run companies. I would go under the way they run companies if I tried to do that when I had my business. Okay? That's spin, 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 spin. But I take, but there's not enough customers. So all my workers underneath me, I start firing them, but I raise prices. It's a death spiral, people. Okay? It's like what I used to tell my brother when I turned the business over to him and he run it into the ground. You cannot work on Chevrolets and charge Cadillac and Lincoln prices. It don't work like that. Or if you have one customer who comes in, you only get one customer a week because you didn't do any jobs during that week, you cannot make all the money off that customer. It don't work like that. But that's what the corporations are doing to us. You understand that? That's what they do to us. Yeah, we're in trouble. We're looking for this crash with Trump in charge and the things that he's doing. He's exacerbating the problems. These people that he has running the Treasury and everything else, the only guy that we have was running the Fed, I can't remember his little name, that he's tried to fire. He's the only one that's keeping us alive. Okay? You understand when this all crashes, these vulture capitalists like that own all these companies like you've heard about, if you ever watched any specials or documentaries, what we've done to other little countries, these vulture capitalists, they go in and they buy it all up and they take it and then they consolidate, package it and sell it off, and in the end the people who are there are the ones who lose. Because again, we are not an asset to them people. We are a liability. Okay? It's just like when I was in the Army. That desk was durable. I was expendable. Okay? Remember when I've told you that, okay, this is very, very important. This is a moral issue. This is truly a moral issue. Okay, I told you back in a few videos back. If I didn't, then I'm sorry that I didn't tell you this. But if you, when the Supreme Court came down and said that corporations, the only responsibility they have is to the shareholders. Well, that's wrong. Me personally, I believe that's wrong. Why? Okay, if they only have it to the shareholders, then they don't have it to the employees. They have no, then there's nothing. They owe the employees nothing, and they'll get nothing. Okay, they owe the town nothing, because I'll give you an example. And I'll give you an example in here a minute. Okay, that's literally a moral issue. Okay, and it goes to the state and to the country. And where are we at right now? These are the same people that are literally trying to sell us out to Russia and China, because they think they can deal with Putin and China better than they can deal with the regulations here, because they think they're smarter than them. Oh, I hate to tell them, when you go to authoritarianism and oligarchy, just like what's happening over in Russia now, these idiots can't pay attention to history. They come at the point of a gun and they take your shit. Yeah, that's what's happening in Russia, and I've already told you that. The FSB is literally going around and robbing the rich people and taking all their shit. Well, that's what these people are turning this into. Because once China gets in, because our foreign policy right now, which I've already told you, our foreign policy is acting like, all you got to do is look at it as if China was doing this to another country, would this look like this? Or, I mean, Russia is doing this and China is doing this to another country that they want to take over. Is exactly what they want to do. Our foreign policy is nothing but Russian policy when you go over and take over a country. That's what the fuck's going on. Okay? And we have a willing and ignorant participant called Donald Trump and Republicans. These people are ignorant because they see dollar signs. Okay. And I'll get back to that thing, but put a note. I saw a note. Okay. Remember those 8 Republicans I told you that get all that money? Well, remember, that's per line, per instance. So if they go back and they look at the records 3 times on that line, they can get a minimum of $500,000 and up. So if they have 6 lines, how many instances they check the records? There it goes. Okay. Now, to get back to give you a story, and this will tell you. Okay, Copeland. This company, Copeland. Okay. They got to a town, and came into the town, and they said, we don't want to pay any taxes for 20 years. After the 20 years, then we'll pay our taxes. Property taxes, all the other taxes that they got to pay. Okay. Now, when I started my business in the same town, I didn't get the same break. Okay, I had to pay my taxes every month in my business. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, every year paid my taxes to the cities, to the county, and everything else. Well, these people come in and they can do it. So they got away with it for 20 years, paid no taxes. Well, they came back, and I knew it was coming because I told them when we went to the first meeting when they built the place. Again, because I learned by watching Bernie Sanders and Tom Hartman and all these others explaining to me how this shit happens and what they're doing when this is done. Because when you give a corporation, they're just like Republicans. And they're like insurance companies. You give them an inch, they'll take a 10-mile swath. And then say it was your fault. You opened the door to the barn. Okay, so Copeland, they come in and they say, we don't want to pay these taxes. Well, in the end comes the end deal. Because I said at every one of these meetings, they come back in and said, well, we're going to take our manufacturing and we're going to go someplace else if we don't get the tax cuts for another 30 years. And I raised my hand and I said, wait a minute. I said, don't do this. I said, why now? We'll lose all the justice. No, you won't. I said, first off, they violated the initial deal when they were supposed to put more people into leadership. Okay? What they call leadership is a team leader that runs the line. That's not a leader. We were talking about when that deal was made, was they were in the office, management. That's what we were talking about. Okay. I come back and I told them, I said, this is bullshit. They're going to do the same thing again in 30 years, what they're doing now. If they last that long. If they don't get bought up and it's all gone, and then we have no jobs. And I said, I see that coming. Or they go out of business. But they went and did it. And I said, wait a minute. Let me explain something to you. You can't go along with this. I said, what happens? I said, I started my business. I said, I have my business here in town. I don't pay my taxes. What do you do? Well, we fine you. What happens if I don't pay the fine? Well, we jail you and fine you. What happens if I don't pay the fine and you jail me and time's up, you got to turn me loose? Well, we take your business. I said, see, you already have it. Oh, we can't do that. I said, you already have it. You already have the people who work in the business that know where the product, to buy the product at, how to build it, and where to ship it to. Let the people turn it over. Let the city take it over. Sell it out to someone else that will run the company properly. But no, they allowed Copeland to fuck the town. And fuck the people. And all the concessions that went along with that deal to keep those jobs. But again, it's like Walmart. How much does Walmart cost an average small community? In my area, it's about $2.5 million because of the low wages. That's what they cost us in Medicare, Medicaid, WIC, all the other bullshit that has to go into that, and other aid that has to come in and take care of poor people. Plus, they don't have health care. Plus, they can't afford prescriptions. And then when they get that money, they go in and spend it right at the same place as fucking them. Okay? It's like you're working for the devil. And each day goes by, the devil asks for more. That's a corporation. That's Walmart. That's Copeland. That's Blackwater. They're the devil, but they ask for more. Okay? And again, they're like Republicans. Republicans, they ask for more, just like they did this deal. And it proves to you. Told them a clean deal where we would vote on the ACA deals. Well, House write-off. Nope, we're not going to do it. And then they came back and said, oh no, we're going to have to add these riders onto it. Okay? That's literally what it is. They sold us out, guys. They sold us out. These eight 8 Democrats sold us out in this one independent. 7 Democrats and 1 independent sold us out. So, yeah, but the economy's going to crash. Next year, this may be the best Christmas you'll have for maybe a decade. Because it's going to get real hard, real fast come next year. So, there'll be no health care, because that $2,000 don't buy shit for health care. Okay, plus the government don't have that money. Period. I've looked at the bank account. It's not there to give you. Okay. It's one of those times when, because of the inflation, everything else, the bonds and everything else, there's too much money going out, there's not enough money coming in, and it's going to collapse. That's what's going on. And every move that Trump makes, because he's stupid, he guides by the end of his dick, the best expression I can give you. And we know what head that thinks like. Okay, the head of a dick is never smart, because there's not enough blood for both. Okay. We are in trouble. We are in trouble. I see some daylight, but it's not what you think it is. It ain't going to be like we did in 2008, how we came out in swimmingly. No. We're in for a long, hard, slow road. Because the financial market, they're crashing the financial market. And again, remember, we've always told you, anytime there's chaos and things are falling apart, there's money to be made. That's what you got to follow. Who's making the money right now? But the problem is, with Trump stealing and everything else, okay, and going into crypto, shit's going to be hard to find. That money is going to be hard to find. It's going to go down. It'll take a decade just to write the book on what's going on right now. It will take another decade to put the history that happened up to this time that got us here, to get us from the decade down the road before the first book written about what just happened now. That's what we're looking at. I'll be dead and gone when that book comes out in the future that wraps all this up. But what I'm telling you, to you young people out there, this is going to make the Great Depression and look like a walk in the park. Okay? We're looking at, if again you go watch the movie Soylent Green, you're going to have tomatoes are going to be $10 a piece, people. Yeah. Because if we don't reorganize the way our food is growing in this country, there ain't going to be no food for us to eat. And like I told you before in my last video, the way the rules are written, they can feed us anything and call it food. That's literally what the fuck is going on. Oh, I'll quit babbling. Like I said, I just can't sleep. The shit that goes on in my head, it's just unreal when I see these things, and it hits me and it clicks. It's scary. Sometimes I wish I didn't know as much and I was just oblivious, like a lot of the Americans are. But I'm trying not to panic, because panic doesn't do any of us any good. That's my biggest fear for me, is that I don't panic. Because this is, in my lifetime, this is the scariest thing, because it has to do with our democracy, our freedom, women's rights, black people's rights, Latinos' rights, the gay rights, trans rights, human rights. Is all wrapped up in what's going on right now. And we have the devil running the show, who's backed up by Russia and China. That's what we have. So with that, I'll stop rambling. I've been rambling for 28 minutes. So y'all try to have I don't want to say a blessed day, because that's just bull crap. You can only be you're only blessed by, my belief is anymore, you can only be blessed by your own doings. Sometimes you get lucky. Don't get me wrong, you can get lucky. But God put us down there. It's called free will. We're the ones that create our own. It's like when we talk about athletes and racing and other thing. When luck, you create luck. Football teams create luck. Baseball teams create luck. Racing teams create luck. Well, people create their luck. And that's, God, we're in for a world of hurt. With that, I'll say goodbye.